Welcome to Financial Revelations, the podcast about money and life and marriage and raising kids, but mostly about money. I'm David Safransky, your host today, but I'm your host every time we do the podcast, so that's nothing new. You know, we've got some bad news to go over. First off, I'll just get this out of the way. The Browns are out of the playoffs, and that's bad news. It was good news that they were in the playoffs because they haven't been there in so long, and we beat the Steelers 2 times in 2 weeks, and the second time in the playoffs in Pittsburgh. So we probably won our Super Bowl this year, and I'm fine with that, and I'm looking forward to next year. Today's the 20th. It's Inauguration Day, and we just watched the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the president and the vice president. And I wanted to answer questions today about that specifically, and we've received some questions, and I want you to send questions to Joshua. It's Joshua at epsf.com. The address is going to be right up here. And if you have questions or concerns or something that you'd just like to know more about, something that you'd like us to dive a little bit deeper into, it's Joshua at epsf.com. And you can always go to our website, www.epsf.com, and you could email me from there. But I prefer you send the questions to Josh because that's who organizes the podcast. He's in charge of the marketing division of Edgewater Investment Group. So that's where I want you to send questions to. The first question that I have to answer is from somebody who's watching the podcast, subscribed, is, has my investment approach changed because of a Biden presidency? So have we changed anything about the way we're looking at investments because of a new president, vice president? We have a Senate that's evenly divided 50-50, so the vice president will have a tie-breaking vote in the Senate. That's the only time she votes in the Senate. She doesn't have a normal vote. If the vote is 50-50, the vice president votes. Otherwise, she doesn't get a vote. And, of course, the Democrats still have the House of Representatives, so they have all 3 branches of government right now. Well, they have all 3 branches of the elected government right now. They do not have the Supreme Court's decidedly conservative in its tilt, so a slight check on power. But so here, my investment philosophy has changed in this sense. I am definitely looking again at green energy investments, and it's not that I didn't look at them before. It's just that they weren't as prevalent because there wasn't the amount of money being spent in that area. Even though a lot of money is being spent there, it had curtailed to some degree, to a large degree, under the Trump administration. Some of the tax credits that were out there for electric vehicles, windmills, had ended under the Trump administration. Those are most likely going to come back. And so there's going to be more money spent on alternative energies, green energies, renewable energy. I've often or always thought that I like the idea of electric vehicles. I like it a lot. I love the power that electric vehicles have. It's 100% power immediately. That's why a Tesla can go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, where a Ferrari does it in 3 seconds. So say, well, that's not that much longer. Well, it's 30% longer if you're looking at the numbers the way we look at them. And so I like the idea of EVs. I like the idea of alternative energy. The problem with it is that windmills, for instance, are extremely expensive. They require a lot of maintenance, and they actually don't produce that much energy in a lot of places. So it's, for most places, windmills are not a great source. For instance, the island of Maui in Hawaii, for a while, would not allow a homeowner to put a solar panel on their roof because they couldn't handle all the energy coming back to the grid. That's been solved so that in Maui, the land of sun and rainbows, you could actually create a lot of energy with alternative sources. It's still super expensive there, though. That's one thing that I've never really gotten, but very expensive energy is in Hawaii. So I do, the way my philosophy has changed with investing is I still love the things that we loved last year, but I am allocating a few more resources and a little bit more time towards researching alternative energies. And the way we do that is in a variety. We use some individual stocks, We use some ETFs, and there might even be a mutual fund or two that I'm going to look at. I like mutual funds. Nothing wrong with them. They're kind of a blunt instrument for what we do here. But if you're an individual investor and you're watching this and you want to be diversified from dollar one, and you don't have $1 million or $100,000 to put into the market, a mutual fund is a great way to get diversified on dollar one because you own everything that the mutual fund has from your first dollar invested. I do want you to pay attention, though, to the fees in the mutual funds. Don't buy loaded funds. Don't pay an upfront commission. Don't buy a B share. If you can get what you want in a no-load fund, that's the way you should be doing it. You might have to pay a little bit to have somebody give you some advice on what to buy, when to buy, and how to protect those purchases, but it's probably going to be money well spent. So that's really my investment philosophy going forward, is that we're still going to do the things that we did. We're still going to dive in, do deep dives into research, read a lot of research. We are going to allocate some brain space and some head space to alternative energies and exactly what they're going to mean in the near future. So we are going to get back into the Paris Climate Accord. They are going to stop the Keystone Pipeline from being built. Both things I'm not really a big fan of, but hey, they're going to happen. We have to deal with it. So there's the world the way I want it. There's the world the way it is. I have to deal with the world the way it is and make money for people in those realities. And that's what we're going to do. So we got to move forward from here. Inauguration Day, big playoff weekend coming up. So that's my investment philosophy going forward. The next question that we had is, and I do get this question a lot from people, whether I like a regular IRA versus a Roth IRA better. My answer to that is it depends. So you got to look at the way the Roth IRA really benefits. So the longer you are in a Roth IRA, the more benefit it has to you, because the money that you put into a Roth is taxable. It doesn't come, you don't get to deduct it or anything. That's okay. I'm fine with that so far. But all of the growth in a Roth IRA, so let's say you put $5,000 into a Roth IRA, and that $5,000 over the course of time grows to $25,000. So now you have the $5,000 that you put in taxed. That, you get that money back at virtually any time, pay no additional taxes on it. But it's a $20,000 that's in there. You've never paid tax on that. It hasn't hit the tax code yet. That comes out in a Roth IRA tax free. And I love that about a Roth IRA. That's what I really like about it. So if you're under the age of 55 and you're not going to retire until you're 62, 65, something like that, yes, a Roth IRA is in your better interest because you have that time to build up the tax-free savings in there. And when that comes out, when somebody comes to me with a Roth IRA that has $1 million in it and they say, well, how much, what's this really worth? I don't really know because I have to calculate taxes in it too. So every dollar that comes out of a regular IRA is taxable to you. Not only have you not paid money on the contribution that went in there, but all the growth in there is also taxable to you as it comes out. Every dollar is an income tax. And so if tax rates go up to 50%, well, then it's only worth half of what you have in there. With a Roth IRA, if you have $1 million in there, I know exactly what it's worth. It's worth $1 million because every dollar that comes out of there is not going to be taxed. And so I really like that about a Roth IRA. So the more time you have, the more sense it makes to do a Roth IRA. Now, kind of in the same breath, people say, well, should I do only a Roth IRA and no 401k at work? Well, if you have a 401k at work and they offer a match, you have to do that. You have to do the match. So that's free money. If they say, if you put in this, we're going to put in some money for you, well, you got to take free money. I have a very simple philosophy in finances. If somebody offers you free money, you should take it. And so in the 401k, I want you to do at least the amount that they're willing to match. Then if there's money left over, we'll put that into a Roth IRA, especially if you're younger. So the easy answer on a Roth IRA is we have to qualify it. And that's the way most things are in finance. It's not black or white, yes or no. It's more of along the lines are, well, where are you right now with your finances? How old are you? When are you going to retire? So I know we like easy answers. Yes or no, Dave? Should I do it or shouldn't I do it? And the answer is, well, let's take a look at what you're doing. It's a little bit more complicated. It's a little bit more nuanced than just should you or shouldn't you. And when you think about it, that's really the way your finances should be. A little bit nuanced because everybody's different. Your budget's going to be different. The things that you have to allocate money to are different. You might have two people in the exact same situation financially, but one has an elderly parent that they have to take care of or have to allocate resources to. Well, now their financial situation is totally different. So the two people can't have the exact same financial plan. There is no cookie cutter in finance. And I know a lot of the big companies out there right now, what they're doing is they want you to invest in a cookie cutter portfolio because it's easy for them. They're still going to charge you the same amount, but they're just not going to do anything nuanced for you. I don't want you to do that. I think that the reason why you hire somebody like me is so we can sit down and say, okay, how are we going to do that? What does your financial situation look like, and how can we best plan for that? So when you're looking at a Roth or a regular or the 401k or life insurance or your budget, how much should you be saving, your emergency fund, these are all things of nuance as they should be. And that's how I want you to approach your finances, a little nuance. If somebody comes to you and says, I'm going to charge you 1%, you're going to go into this packaged product, it's the moderate growth portfolio, I would probably walk away and go hire somebody who's going to charge you the same amount, build a portfolio for you personally, and then manage it. That's what I think you could do today. It's very easy to do. There's a lot of people around you. You don't have to come here to do it. There's a lot of people around you that are doing it. So I want you to pick somebody that you have a little simpatico with, mainly because if you don't like talking to that person, you're not going to talk to that person. And there has to be a little bit of two-way communication between you and your finance people because it's important. When you get to 65 and you're retired, if you haven't paid attention, you haven't done a good job, you haven't followed up, it's too late. You're here. You've arrived. So we got to be doing these things along the way. And the more you approach it that way, on a quarterly basis or a semi-annual basis, the easier it actually is because there isn't as much heavy lifting. There's not cleanup work that you have to do because you haven't talked to that person in 3 years. Stay connected to them. Stay involved. Don't tell them how to do their job as long as you like what they're doing. But that simpatico goes a long way, that kind of commonality of purpose. That's what I want you to have with your finance people. So stay in contact with them. They should want to take your phone call. I love talking to people. And one thing COVID has taught me is that we don't have to meet in person all the time. And we work with people all over the country, actually all over the world. And so I'm not going to Italy to visit my Italian clients. We're doing a Zoom call or we're calling on Skype, but we're talking. Clients that we have that are in California, I do see them, but I see them less frequently because we're talking on the phone more, and that's okay. So one thing about COVID has taught me is that use the technology that you have. You can really stay in contact. I don't need to be on a plane every time we need to talk. And you might not want to see me that often, although it's hard to believe. Most people want to see me a lot because, well, I'm just a great guy. So, but we don't have to see each other face to face. We could do it over a computer. We could talk on the phone. Very effective, very quick. And then even people on the east side of Cleveland, sometimes they don't want to drive over to the west side. Just do a phone call. Stay in contact. You got to stay in contact. You got to stay grounded with that person. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have anything about money, Joshua at epsf.com. That's the place to send your emails to. He'll let you know that we got your question, that we're going to answer it, and then he'll let you know also when it's going to be on the podcast. So some of the questions we've already answered we'll go back over. Some of the questions we were already planning to answer. It's kind of like a jukebox. 25 people are going to go play that song, but it's only going to play once. So sometimes we get 10 people that ask the same question with a little bit of nuance, and we answer that question like a jukebox. So we love you guys. I think that the market's going to do great these next 18 months. I'm excited for it. We are going to get an infrastructure bill most likely. We're definitely going to get more COVID relief. These things are all going to push the market higher. We might see some inflation. The Fed's actively working to keep inflation low, and I think it's going to be that way. Also good for the market. Stay tuned. This podcast is not the last. We're going to keep doing this every week, and I look forward to talking to you guys in the future. Thank you.